The next question is how I tell the quality of a wine other than price and taste. And I'll start out by saying that price is not always a reliable indicator of quality. For example, Caymus Cabernet from Napa now sells for around $100 a bottle, but I think that there's many wines from Napa that sell for half the price yet offer better quality. So there's oftentimes a correlation between some basic quality level and the price, but it's certainly not proportional. Sometimes the label will give you some indication about the quality of a wine. This is especially true in Europe. In Italy, for example, Chianti Classico Reserva is subject to more strict production requirements than Chianti Classico, and so oftentimes Chianti Classico Reserva will have a higher quality level than Chianti Classico. That's not always the case, however, but it would give you something to go on if you're going to take a flyer on a wine. In general, the Chianti Classico Reserva has a better chance of being a quality wine than a Chianti Classico. But for me personally, the primary way that I evaluate wines is by tasting. And it's not just tasting the wine and saying thumbs up or thumbs down, this is either good or bad. There's a lot more that goes into it than that. In many instances, I'm even tasting these wines blind, and so I won't know what's on the label, nor will I know the price point when I'm evaluating a particular wine. But there's really four considerations that I take into account when I'm trying to assess the quality of a particular wine. First is the flavor and aromatic intensity. A thin wine will rarely be a high quality wine. While flavor and aromatic intensity is necessary to have a quality wine, it's by no means sufficient. I'm also looking for balance. You could have, for example, a situation where a wine had intense flavors, but was flabby because it didn't have enough acidity. So what I'm looking for is a wine that has balance between the flavor intensity, the acidity levels, and also the structure or the tannins that are associated with that wine. Everything should be in balance. The next factor that I'll consider when determining the quality of a particular wine is if there's evidence of complexity. There's a whole host of considerations that can go into this factor, and I don't want to get too bogged down, but one thing that everyone can consider is whether or not the wine that you're experiencing is a simple wine or whether it's more complex. And one way to do that is by the descriptor profile. If, for example, you're getting nothing but fruit, and the fruit is just generally red fruit or black fruit, and you're not really able to determine particular types of fruit, rather it's just kind of like muddled red fruit, then it's probably a simple or a basic wine. In contrast, if you're getting lots of discrete red fruit, such as cherries, raspberries, strawberry, rhubarb, and others, and especially if you're also getting things like floral notes, whetstone, or other types of categories of descriptors, then you can probably bet that that's going to be a more complex wine. One of the very most important considerations that I take into account when evaluating the quality of the wine is the length of the finish. So when I'm tasting a wine, I'm always considering how long the finish will last. When I'm doing that, I'm considering only the positive characteristics of the wine and not the negative characteristics. And so if you get kind of like a nasty Robitussin bitter aftertaste on the wine, you don't want to count that, as that certainly does not mean that the wine is good quality, even though it has a long-lasting finish. If the finish will last for around 15 seconds, then I know it's probably an acceptable wine of good quality. If it's less than that, then it's probably a more basic or entry-level wine. And to the extent it lasts longer than that, perhaps as long as 45 seconds to a minute, then it's potentially a world-class wine.